Today is the day. Today is the day that we finally get to actually rescaping the 2.5 gallon aquascape here. It's done okay. I mean, I can't say that it's not like a failure as a tank. As you see, we do have some persistent diatom algae that kind of has been growing a little bit. You know, more than anything, I think that this tank has just been kind of neglected because we didn't really get the kind of growth that I was looking for in the Juncus repens as a carpet. I also just kind of don't like it as a carpet. I mean, we've had some half decent growth in terms of some of our other plants. The water conditions have always remained really, really nicely, and you know, our Ember Tetras that we eventually did put in here. There's one of them. Oh, where'd you go? There you go. It's been okay. But I think we can do better, and that's what we're doing today. We're just going to completely redo this tank. As far as the planting goes, I think I am going to keep the rocks the way that they are, just because I kind of like them. We'll kind of see as we go. Let's see if that remains, but let's go ahead and get this tank broken down. We'll get all the fish and critters out of it. We'll get it cleaned out, and we'll start from scratch. So. And boom, got it all cleaned up. I did go ahead and I put black backer film on the back of it because I just think it's a little bit more organized. I don't really want to see too many of those wires and the cords at the back of the tank. We got it all cleaned out, cleaned up, ready to go. We are just going to use that same light and the same filter because I want to be able to put the fish right back into this tank afterwards without having to have like some kind of temporary holding tank or something for them. Speaking of temporary holding tanks, I actually have them set up in this 2-cup pitcher right there. As you can see, the fish are doing great. I have the filter running, I have the heater and the air stone all going, so those guys are chilling for now. I went ahead and I took some of the plants that I do want to reuse. So this is like some dwarf sage, as well as I can't remember the name of it, but it was that one off to the bottom left corner of the tank. I'm blanking the name. I'll put it in there though. Some dwarf sage, and then the rest of the plants are in here. I don't know if you guys can get a good look, but it's like the floating plants and the Cypress hill Perry and the Japonica and everything like that. I did go ahead and I got some Monte Carlo, which we are going to redo our carpet with, hopefully, and then just some assorted more dwarf sage, and that should do her. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get our substrate layer in. We'll get the hardscape, and then we'll replant this tank and get it all set up. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use some of this substrate that was originally in this tank. Not a lot of it, but this all has a lot of good nutrients and stuff in it. So let's just go ahead and push that to the back. And essentially this is just to build up. All right, and then the next step is just to really build up the back area of this tank and build up the ability. We're going to use some of our lava rock. This is just the basalt Carib Sea lava rock. So we're just going to kind of throw it in here. We're going to build a nice good base layer for our aqua soil to sit on top of. Again, we're not going to do a ton of this. This is basically going to just help to build up the back area of that tank without introducing too much of that old substrate and everything like that kind of didn't work for us out. I definitely don't want to use an absolute ton of this stuff, but at the same time, I want to give a good layer that the aqua soil can then sort of go ahead and rest on top of. And there we have it. So we just have a nice good layer. It's not extreme. This is about as much soil that we had in that entire tank last time. So we're definitely going to be introducing a lot more of this soil. And this is going to add an absolute ton of beneficial bacteria real estate, as I've said before, that's going to allow our biological filter within this tank to really go ahead and take off. I think that should be good. We're going to go ahead and we're going to add some root tabs now. All right, so we have about 7 of them, and we're gonna call this one 8. And these are our aquarium co-op ones. Not sponsored or anything or affiliated. I just really like these ones, so I got it myself. I just open up that cap and toss in the powder because I don't really know what that is, and I don't want that in the tank. So, although you totally can put that in the water, I'm just being incredibly paranoid. So. And next up, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our Fluval Stratum. I absolutely love stuff, not sponsored or anything by Fluval or associated with them, just really good stuff that I love to use. We're just going to do a nice, good layer of this. Pour it right up on top of all that. Make sure that our plants have plenty to use. And that should do her. And I did go ahead and I carved a track through there because we are going to go ahead and get our hardscape in at the same time. I don't want to have to use more of this aqua soil than I need. Aqua soil, as everybody knows, is fairly expensive stuff. So we don't want to be using it kind of willy-nilly. All right, time for the hardscape. We're going to change it up a little bit. We're going to use some of the same stuff that we used last time. You guys will remember this rock as coming out of there. So I think I'm just going to try to place it like right there. I don't want it too close to the front because a problem that we had was that it was just too close to the front of the tank for us to be able to kind of clean around it. So we got that one in. We're going to use the smaller one of the rocks that was in here. I didn't like the 2 bigger ones. I just think it was just taking up much too much space. So I am sort of liking something like that. I'm definitely going for a slightly more simple scape this time. Much more about the plants. I definitely want to make sure that that they're our centerpiece always. So we're actually going to get started with the recycled Cypress Hill Perry that we had in the old tank. Some of this did really, really well, and some of it did really bad. I just tried to pick the stuff that did really well. If I had to guess, it sort of just didn't acclimate that well to being underwater. So let's go ahead and just plant that right in that back corner right there. Second up here we have the Japonica, and that's going to go kind of within that same vicinity. I'm going to put that one like right there. And again, pushing these fairly deep. I want them to kind of be like fairly well rooted right off the bat. Cool. One more plant before we get to the dwarf sage is that Cryptolutea that we had last time. As you can see, long, big, healthy roots. So this was one of the plants that did fairly well. We are going to go ahead and just kind of pull off a couple of those roots just because I think that those are a little bit wild and big. I was thinking right here in the center between these two would look so nice, where it's going to get a little less light. All right, and once again, our dwarf sage did really, really well. So we're just going to kind of go in kind of like intermittently, like these spots there. Make sure that those roots are covered. I want like a real jungly sort of big, beautiful vibe to these. All right, now that we have all of the dwarf sage, which looks great by the way, there was quite a bit of it actually growing in that tank, even though you couldn't kind of really tell. The crypt in the middle looks really, really good. I'm glad that I put that there, but now that that's all done, let's go ahead and get all this Monte Carlo planted in the front section here, and we'll get some water in this, fill it up, get it in its permanent place. And all right, time for our Monte Carlo. It's looking beautiful. What I want to do is I just want to grab all those roots at once, making sure not to get any of the main plant itself, and just find like a really good sort of spot for it. Thinking right about there. And just grab, push, grab and push. And then just with my hand, sort of just wiggle it down in there. Just like that. Nice big bunch. And as it grows, it'll send out runners and it'll spread from there. So, oftentimes it can be a little bit hard to keep Monte Carlo actually planted because of its kind of really small root structure. But we're going to go ahead and just push that down. That should be good. Let's check what the light's going to look like on it. Yeah, it'll get plenty of light. All right, and we just rinse and repeat there. And with that, we are pretty much wrapped up with our planting. I really wanted to kind of keep it a little bit more simple than last time. Just kind of stick with what I know. The Monte Carlo looks really good. Hopefully this all grows out into a nice kind of carpet. We might need to add some CO2 to make that happen. I definitely do have a little bit here, so we might see if that manifests, but all right, let's get this thing moved to its original spot and let's get it all hooked back up, water in it, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna add a little bit of beneficial bacteria. It should be zero everything. The aqua soil does release a little bit of ammonia into the water as well, so we're probably gonna need to do daily water changes despite having a cycled filter. This is kind of a fish in cycle. There's a way to do it, it's just kind of a little bit more of a pain in the butt, and you're also risking the fish. But since I'm going to be doing daily water changes on this thing, just to make sure that we're all good, I'm not gonna be too worried about it, but for a new person or like a beginner, I would definitely not recommend doing it this way. So just for your information. All right, filter's all hooked up. The air stone is hooked up. All that's left to really do now is go ahead and add in our beneficial bacteria. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in 3 of these just to make sure that we get a good start. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw in some of our Aquarium Co-op Easy Green. This stuff is amazing. No affiliation with them, but go ahead and throw in 2 of those pumps just to make sure that we get enough of a go, since there is nothing in this tank yet. We're gonna go ahead and add in some of the API Stress Coat. This is just a dechlorinator. It also helps to replace the slime coat on the fish, which helps them to acclimate to new tanks faster and better. Just reduces fish stress. Boom. That's probably all that we're going to need. And voila, it is the next day. As you can see, it is slightly murky still. That's okay. We are running a small amount of CO2 because I do want to make sure that this carpet kind of takes off, and Monte Carlo does best with a little bit of CO2. It does need to grow in, so I'm going to give this, let's say, another week or so, and then we'll kind of reassess what the growth looks like on the dwarf sage and the Cypress Helperi and all that. But because we were using a fully cycled filter, all of our fish made it through the first night. They all were okay. None of the snails died. I had 0 die off. Everything is looking very good. So we're gonna chalk that up to a win, and we'll reassess in about a week's time. Alright guys, so it's a couple days later, actually exactly a week later, and as you can see we did make a couple of additions to the tank. I did put some hair grass in there, I added a couple more pieces of the Monte Carlo in there, and as you can see we have some absolutely beautiful weird looking ghost shrimp. I love these guys, they're some of my favorites. They're weird little googly buggy eyes. They're so funny. These are actually, I think, mostly known as like a feeder shrimp. So like, these are really inexpensive. I think I was like 2 for $1 on these things. I picked up 6 of them. As you can see, that female does have eggs with her. So hopefully we get a little bit of breeding in this tank. Whoa. One bounced out quick. Okay. So here's the shrimpy guys. The big boy took off on his own. So and here's the release. Oh, look at them go. Aren't they beautiful? Go on, everybody. And I definitely think these guys are going to add something kind of awesome and cool to the tank. And as far as the rest of the tank goes, this is kind of a far cry from where it was before. I absolutely am loving what I did with the hair grass. I know that the dwarf Sagittaria is going to grow up nicely in the back sections here. Hopefully fill this area in, as well as like this area back here in. As you can see, the dwarf Sag is going to grow up higher and be more beautiful. I don't think any of the dwarf Sag is really going to grow too much, but this Monte Carlo is definitely going to fill out this foreground area a lot more. So hopefully everything works out. As you can see, I am running an air stone. That's not going to be the final placement of that. That'll probably go off to the back somewhere. But for right now, it does just kind of help with that initial sort of oily scum that sort of builds up at the surface on an initial startup of a tank. It also just helps with a little bit of oxygenation for the water. I am running tiniest little bit of CO2, about 1 drop every 2 seconds. It's not an absolute ton. This is a smaller tank though. But to grow dwarf hairgrass, in my experience, you're definitely going to need a little bit of CO2. We might need to adjust the lighting as time goes on as well. That's something to keep an eye on. So if the dwarf the dwarf hairgrass doesn't end up doing well, we'll just switch it out. Alright guys, this tank is 100% wrapped up. Please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button for more of this kind of content. I love you guys, and I will catch you in the next one.